civiltà dell'amore. Fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Buonasera.
Good evening. This is the third day, the third talk. The title of the talk, as you can see, is Research, the Challenge of Knowledge. So we're going to talk about research at university. Now, let's go back to 2.5 years ago in the middle of a pandemic with a lot of fear. Everybody was waiting for a vaccine, for some kind of treatment that could save us from this virus. Right, Eva? Hello, Enrico, and welcome to everyone. Yes, it is so. So after the healthcare crisis, we would like to start by talking about research and the importance of research. By research, we mean universities, specialized labs, tests, centers, significant investments that often have long-term returns, not short-term returns. That is why the National Recovery and Resilience Plans did not focus so much on them. So this is an important point for the future of the country. Now, let's talk about our guest. We have Maria Cristina Messa, Minister for University and Research. Thank you for being here. An applause for her. Francesco Cupertino, Rector of the Polytechnical University in Bari. Welcome. Luigi Scordamaglia, Managing Director of Inalca, company of the Cremonini Group. Then Maximo Ibarra, Managing Director of Engineering, a specialized company in the field of digitalization. Welcome to everyone. So the world of university and the world of companies, what are their relationships? Which university for which research? Applied research, pure research? These are some of the topics that we would like to explore tonight. So now let's have a look at the research center, the Sant'Anna School in Pisa, a school of excellence in the field of scientific research. Let's have a look. This is a robotic platform that is used for the characterization of artificial skin. We apply this artificial skill on the surface of robots so that the interaction will be safe between the robot and the person. We also develop sensors that can be worn and that work very well in the field of remote medicine. Every day we have a new challenge, a scientific or technological challenge. So it's not your standard kind of work. Mariangela Filosa has a PhD in robotics, and she's worked on this platform for 2 years with other colleagues. Let's have a look at the experimental lab of the Sant'Anna School. In Pontedera, you have 3D printers, small robots. It's a research center that includes 150 teachers and PhD students from all over the world. This is a skeleton for the rehabilitation for patients after a stroke. So it is designed for patients that don't have full mobility. This kind of exoskeleton simulates the work of a physiotherapist, moving the joints of shoulder and elbow. Behind all this, there's all the work of engineers. But how does research start? Well, it all starts from an idea, but it's much more complex than this. You need a critical mass. Of course, there may be a research project resulting from a brilliant idea. I participated myself in research that were the result of an idea born into a summer school. Then there was a patent, and after that, several projects, very challenging ones, and so on. But generally, you need a critical mass. You need a kind of the right environment for it. So you need an environment, means, people, and exchange of ideas with the world of industry and companies so that products can be sold on the market and bring benefits to society. Well, obviously, researchers would like to have a long-term relationship with companies, but this is not always possible. It's not always possible in Italy. What we are looking for in joint labs is a long-term cooperation where a company creates a joint lab with mixed staff, and we do some kind of co-development activities. Well, funds right now are abundant, but we need to attract researchers to Italy. And then there's the problem of how to assess the research, because there's not just publications on scientific magazines, but there's also the impact that they have in the surrounding areas, patents, and so on. Well, 3 products that we created were assessed as excellence and extremely relevant. And so it's very important that after all the work that we do is rewarded in a way, personally and as a university. Minister, the teacher that we just heard said the idea is not enough to have a research. You need the right environment, resources, equipment, staff. So you used to be rector of the Bicocca University. So is this what the Italian university can offer? So when is it that research is possible? Well, yes, good evening, everyone. Let's talk about the suitable environment for a research. Because in order to have the right kind of environment, you need to work hard and for a long time. Our research environment has a lack of continuity. We have some peaks, and then some really still periods. And so now we have the problem of attracting researchers. But if we check, for example, the equipment or the staff involved or the places where research takes place, well, we have quite a lot of them. We have the most modern kind of equipment. Maybe sometimes it's not used in the right way. So thinking of the future, I think we have a challenge in front of us because we have funds right now. We have allocated all the funds from the National Resilience and Recovery Plan. They will finance research projects, private and public research projects, with the involvement of researchers, equipment, with impacts on the territory, with spin-off opportunities, and so on. This is a challenge that we need and have to take. So Italians, even when they go abroad, they have a lot of ideas, many ideas. But an idea is not just something that you have by chance. It's something that you build, that you analyze, that you experiment on in a very practical way. I just would like to make a comment referring to what the professor just said, and that is about people. Our researchers need to be assessed more frequently and better, and need to have kind of an economic rewarding system. But this is not possible right now because we have a system that tends to standardize everything. So it's very difficult to reward the activity that is done. The reward system has started to appear. Now part of the financing is based on this reward system, and this should be applied in all universities so that they can reward research that performs particularly well. Yes, we've made some steps forward because in these with this new financing, it's possible to create a fund in order to reward researchers. Luigi Scordamaglia, you lead a company that is a leader in the field of meat processing. So in your sustainable profit and loss account, it talks about a strong relationship with the university sector. What does that mean? Well, you were referring as to Filiera Italia, which is a group of the main processing companies, the agricultural sector, and part of the distribution sector. So as its Italian agri-food sector, I would like to say, and I would like to give some figures. We're talking about 570 billion euros in turnover, more than 4 million people. It's a global model with 64 billion added value, with the lowest environmental impact in Europe, 30 million tons of CO2 against the 77 in France and 60 in Germany. This means that innovation and research and the relationship with the university, even though it has limitation, allows the miracle to happen, because we are a very small country with not much land, but we have a lot of biodiversity, and this becomes a reference model globally. Our exports are growing. We've exceeded 50 billions. We are reaching 60 millions. And this is not just because of safety and quality, but also because of the sustainability. There are still people that have a very naive view of this sector, thinking that sustainability can be done with traditional tools. But this is not the case. The agricultural system in our country is now a leader in terms of precision farming, for example. So each square meter of land is considered as a living being with its own characteristics. There are some large companies in Europe are experimenting in a way that allows them to collect a lot of data that will then be given to the global system. So research, constant innovation without standardization. For example, NBT, the new breeding techniques. This is something that allows you to improve an organism, a plant organism, without forcing things, without creating those experiments that in the past had negative consequences. I personally believe that we will become more and more global, but we have a limitation, that is the mismatch of qualified human resources. If we cannot solve this problem, the agro-food sector, the food sector, requires 50,000 new workers in the next few years. And you can rank second in robotics, first in precision farming with a lot of infrastructure. But if you don't have qualified staff to use, then you don't go anywhere. Yeah, this is the topic of the next service. A questionnaire was submitted recently. It's a study that was done among managers talking about this gap you were referring to. So in the past, you just had to go to a workshop and you would learn the tools of the trade. But now what you learn does not correspond to what the market wants. This is what a survey that was done is saying. According to the managers that were contacted, Italian graduates are highly qualified, but cannot transfer their knowledge into practical activity. And the reason is the responsibility is that of universities, because their the studies that they offer are not very practical. 52% of the managers are employed. An increasing partnership between universities and companies with internship, this could be very helpful. So who do companies need? 3 out of 4 companies need graduates in engineering, economics, chemistry, biology. And there is an increasing interest in statistics. And again, you need to have the right soft skills that are becoming increasingly important when selecting someone. The ability to work in team, communication skills, and an attitude towards problem solving. And then nowadays, you need to speak several languages, but you need also to use technology with reference to social media, web marketing, big data, and e-commerce. The latest survey by SWG, which is a specialized company, says that more than 80% of those who look for a job consider that digital skills are essential. That generation knows this very well. Only 4% think that digital skills are not important. Okay, so digital skills. Ibarra, what do you think? Right now, after the experience with WindSky Italy, now you are working in engineering. You're leading a multinational company focusing on digital transformation. So my question is for you, because you have a digital academy, an academy that is also a management school, an information technology school. So just to give you some data, 240 teachers, 500 courses, 10,000 people interested. So these are significant figures. So this is an important choice. You decided to finance a school, an education facility. Is it because the university is not enough?
First of all, good evening everyone. Well, there are the data we have seen in the video, but there are also not enough people with the necessary knowledge. So the number of students coming out of our universities is not enough. And there is also a demographic problem in Italy. So, well, from my point of view, the priority for the next century should be based on these issues. The demand for graduate in scientific sectors and in economics is very high. We are trying to make different choices. We have decided to train and educate our own people, our own staff. So young people that have to be extremely motivated and, well, their background doesn't really matter. But when they come to us, they can start a journey through which they dive into this world of technology, which is actually more than technology alone. It is a theme based on management skills. As we saw in the video, we need both elements. Technology is not enough if it's not accompanied by other aspects linked with the needs of enterprises, and then things become more essential. We have 25,000 days of training. Now we started to open up to the external market because our vocation as a company is we help you to change, but we need to take any opportunity that technology offers us to turn you into use cases. That is to say, solutions that have as an objective the creation of opportunities. So we talk about digital transition, green economy. Our target is to solve today's problems, and we can do that only if we have a holistic approach to technology and if technology is accompanied by managerial skills. Then, well, we have relationships with the 50 universities, among which also the Polytechnical University in Bari. And we are also linked with the world of research, 100 international research projects, for instance. So this interchange is extremely important because we do understand the needs for the certain research projects. We can use the resources of engineering, our students that study at our academy, and so we can give our contribution to the most topical needs at the time. Francesco Cupertino, Rector of the Polytechnical University in Bari. We read about this study that was published 2 months ago, where the Polytechnical University is a leader in granting the employability of its students. And I was really surprised, but please tell us, how do you manage to have these results? What did you do over the past years in order to achieve this target? Yes, I must say that I was surprised myself when I read these data. We have the highest employability rate in Italy. It's a great satisfaction for us, obviously. So this is not our ultimate goal. We try to do our best, and then we achieve goals like this one. Well, our university started to offer engineering courses in about 60 years ago. Then, 30 years ago, the Polytechnical University was founded in order to have a dialogue with the productive sector of our region. So that's how we worked. We listened to the enterprises and the companies of our region. We changed passing from a civil engineering orientation to the mechanical engineering sector. So we did this, but this is not the only important part of our work. We need to communicate, and this is done by cooperating in the field of research. As we saw in the video, they need to have joint private-public laboratories where knowledge and skills are developed. That's how we learn how to understand each other, how to understand each other's needs. And this is how we've been working. And, well, in recent years, we started the public-private workshops. These are enterprises that are within the Polytechnical universities with their own research. So we started with an aeronautical enterprise. We have 6 different enterprises now working within the Polytechnical University and involving dozens of students. So I do believe this has been one of the central elements in achieving these targets. When you have this kind of experience, which is a direct experience, when we work together, when the professors teach the things he knows according to his own method, but being aware of the needs of the labor market to which our students are destined, well, students understand the offer of the labor market, and therefore they channel their studies in Italy and abroad because, well, in the next few years we will have to be open to the external markets outside Italy. So we try and understand this role that we have to play as a Polytechnical University in the south of Italy, but with a new openness, so to speak, in terms of research. So that's how we achieved these results. So now the time has come to show you another video we prepared for you. We talked about the relationship between the university, enterprises, and the territory. Lambretta, Innocenti, the motor scooters that in the 90s was as the symbol of the recovery of the country after the Second World War. That adventure ended 25 years ago, but there are these big buildings that are in the outskirts of Milan, and they were reused, and they now host the Camossi Group.
Il cambiamento fa parte del nostro.
Change is part of our strategy. We decided to create this hub in Milan, in a historical location. Technologies are bound to change in the next few years. Supply chains and products will change, and we have decided to have here the biggest 3D printer of composites and carbon fibers in the world, and we have decided to have joint labs with the university and research centers so that we can put together the knowledge of the universities and the experience of the industry. Here once there were the labretta and the mini miner were created, were produced. Now we have a completely different location. This is an industry of the future. This is thanks to the Camozzi group that now produces industrial robots. We invest 15 million per year, about 3-4% of our turnover, and this helps us develop these new technologies that go from the Green Deal, that is to say sustainability and digitalization. So this is a challenge that is faced with the knowledge and with the cooperation with, for instance, the Polytechnical University of Milan, the Technological Institute in Genoa, and they created the new monitoring devices for the new bridge built in Genoa. There is a whole ecosystem here. Enterprises, university excellence centers live together in these new situations where the preparation of STEMs are important, but soft skills are also important. So, for instance, resilience, team working, so that we can have human resources that will be ready to face and handle these new technologies that will represent the future. These are, well, we have universities in Italy that are of a very high level, even though in the United States, universities can count on more financial resources. Thanks to the National Resilience and Recovery Plan, now we have new opportunities. So this ecosystem I mentioned before can be a very important boost that will provide us with new opportunities. So the future is now. We have to keep in mind what the starting point is for each development. So the human being is still at the center. We talk about technological humanism, where the human being is at the center of the universe, and the technology is used to optimize the skills that human beings have. But it's the human being who designs, makes plans, and loves. These are all things that an artificial intelligence cannot do. So there is always the work of man behind technology.
È una possibilità sicuramente.
So this is a fascinating opportunity, from the point of view of the university and of the enterprises. Madam Minister, so what are the conditions so that this cooperation, this mechanism of cooperation between university and industry can work? Well, there have to be conditions that are positive for both parties. There are different relations that can be created between universities and the economic world. For instance, well, there is simply the purchase of the end product, and this is a more a service activity. And then there's something else. So that's what we did with the funds of the National Resilience and Recovery Plan. That is to say, to make research together with a passage from research to innovation, and this calls for know-how and skills that go beyond the skills of a traditional, so to speak, researcher, and who maybe aims at a patent. But then all this needs to become a product that is interesting, that brings innovation, and this calls for other skills. So there needs to be an exchange. One of the laws that we passed was that the one that envisages the possibility to spend 5 years in the university, in the academic world, if you work in an enterprise, or within an enterprise if you work inside the academic world, without losing anything in economic terms. Is this plan already undergoing? Yes, now the rectors need to start using it. It's already there. Well, yes, it is functional. It is active. It is already, the law has already come into force. And when the national centers, the ecosystems for innovation will start working, then we shall see this project working. So that it's not so much a personal project to become a manager or a university professor. There is a project that enables the exchange between these different roles. When all this will become operational, we become more similar to other European countries. Well, in the United States and in the Anglo-Saxon world, this is something that is already there from the private to the public sector and vice versa. We are not English, we are not American, we do not have pragmatism in our DNA, but we have so many other qualities and skills. And I would like to say something about this. We have training and an education that is deeper, maybe less focused, but wider. And in a moment like this one, when we have such a fast innovation pace, this is in a way a benefit, and the STEM subjects need to be mixed with humanistic subjects. There's no chasm. Mr. Cupertino, how do you see this cooperation? What is in it for universities? Well, we can really benefit from this in terms of opportunities and experience, because the possibility to look at the market does not damage the level of the scientific research. It makes it possible to make these efforts usable by all of us. We need to find the right way to have advantages for both parties involved. So maybe the advantages for the enterprise is obvious in a way, but anyway, we needed to go to universities, or we need to welcome researchers and spend time with them in order to be able to create a dialogue with them. We have to find results in university laboratories that can be used commercially. Well, this is not so easy, and obtaining a patent is a risky operation. So we needed to mitigate the costs of innovation. The open innovation, that is to say, the sharing of part of the development of some technological solutions between the worlds of research on the one hand and universities on the other, makes it possible to exchange skills and know-how, and also to reduce the risk of what we're doing. In the academic world, maybe we will have this opportunity to make some experiences in the enterprise world without losing their path as professor. Maybe, well, sooner than in a few years. So, well, the fact that we can have funds is extremely important. Now we can attract funds at European level that are not enough. The ERC projects of the European Research Council are won by Italian researchers, just like, for instance, in Germany. But then these researchers leave Italy to carry out their research work. So we would like to have the possibility to keep these researchers in Italy, and that would be the right result of our effort of dialogue. In the briefing we had before the beginning of this start, You said we have a very difficult autumn in front of us with rocketing prices for maybe also food and in general for the good market. So how can we avoid that this 8–10% of inflation can have repercussions on the prices? Well, there has been a problem here. We have underestimated the problem to need producing in Italy, in Europe. We took it for granted that we could stop producing agricultural products or energy products because there was the globalization. What we couldn't produce here, we could buy from Southern America or from Russia. Well, that was a mistake, and now we know it. So if we do not produce in our country or in your continent, the environmental impact is simply moved elsewhere. 1 kilogram of meat produced in Italy is 1/5 of CO2 emissions in Asia or South America. When you talk about prices, we know we are dependent on foreign countries. We know about Orban saying that pretended not to have the products we needed. So, yes, we have a difficult season in front of us, and then there is what is called the food social gap. The excellent products we have produced can be bought only by a few, and many will have to content themselves with imported products or the so-called synthetic food. So how can we react to this? Well, today we need to counterbalance this situation. We have to relaunch our production in a sustainable way that is the result of innovation and research. And I'll give you a practical example. Bonifica Ferraresi, the land reclamation enterprise in Ferrara, and other companies have created a joint venture that actually creates the best possible solution in order to produce vegetable biomasses that can produce biofuels, and thanks also to the effort of the Italian government, they will be used by vehicles which will not be only electric vehicles from 2035. So they work in terms of precision farming, and then there is a big academy, a great academy where people and technicians, especially from African countries, come here to learn how they can produce bioenergy without competing with the feed, with biofertilizers that actually keep the nitrogen, and this can create a problem. So these examples should become a general model for our country.
Thank you for talking about your direct experience. I would like to ask you to talk about a slogan that is typical of your academy, and that is knowing what to do and knowing what to be. What is the most important thing for you? Well, I watched the video about Camozzi, and that was very interesting. Well, knowing what to be and how to be is very important. We talked about sharing, we talked about open innovation, we talked about joint forces and creating a system, a common system. This is the key word here. You can innovate if you are able to join different skills, different perspectives, different experiences, different people around the same table. Because what is happening today compared to the past is that things are speeding up and will speed up even more in the future. If we want to take the opportunities that are in front of us, we need to have a wider perspective. So a single university or research center or company cannot do that. So you need to have awareness, increased awareness, and you need to set aside an egotistic point of view where each actor seems to be enough. I recently went to the US, and while talking about innovation, I noticed a very specific point, like the minister was mentioning before. It's not just the company, the research centers, the university joining forces. They also have investors. So when you visit a research center, for example, in this case, it was the healthcare center, you see investors there. Investors see that there is an opportunity in terms of innovation, and so they invest in that specific project. Is this possible in Italy too? Well, it is possible, but I think it's going to take a while. But this is the direction that we're going to follow, I think. We don't have the pragmatism that Anglo-Saxon countries have, but I think we're going to get there because the speed of innovation right now is too high. If we want to keep pace with what is going on, with the new development, discoveries, and so on, in order to face today's emergencies, we need to be quick. Well, we could be able to keep up if we could eliminate the problem of researchers, talented researchers leaving us. Minister, which country should we mirror if we want to do this? And I'm mentioning this because one of the questions, two university students asked two questions, so I'd like to welcome them here. Giovanni is studying physics, and Beatrice is studying philosophy. And they have a couple of questions for you. Good evening. My question is, following 2 years of the pandemic, we are going back to being physically present. So for a student who lives elsewhere, there's the problem of living in Milan. Considering the economic crisis that we're going through right now, how will the Ministry for University help the students? Now, my question would be, considering what we've heard so far, I'm studying philosophy, I'm a second-year student, and if I think about a possible career opportunity, research comes to mind. So looking at the data that talk about very uncertain income and a very slow research, why should I stay here? Why not going abroad? So what kind of added value can the fact of remaining in Italy for doing research have? Thank you. Thank you, and our best wishes for your future. This is a very serious problem because I think we should increase financing for students. I see newspaper articles talking about rent increases, especially in a city like Milan, and this is discouraging. This government has allocated 1 billion euros from the National Recovery Plan and 500 million euros from the recovery plan to increase the number of beds in residences for students and to increase funds for talented students who do not have the financial means for studying. So obviously, this is related to the National Recovery Plan, so it will last for 2 or 3 years. Then later on, it will have to be confirmed with a national financing opportunity. in the future budget laws, because the experience of being physically present, being physically there, is important, because attending a university doesn't simply mean going to the university, attending classes, but it means exchanging ideas with other students, taking part in lab activities. So the university experience requires a physical presence. So that is the investment that we should do in a suitable way. As for the future of researchers, you have 3 seconds, no more. We have defined a plan for the recruitment of new researchers and professors, according to which within 4 or 5 years will be 3 times as many researchers and professors. So we've increased opportunities to get to university. As for a foreign experience, I think it's essential. But then coming back to Italy to put into practice what you've learned is just as important. So we've increased funds. We've increased the number of new researchers that can be recruited by university. The important thing is that this measure, that is just a temporary measure, becomes a constant one. If I had to think about a country that we should try and mirror, Germany spends 3 times as much in research at the university level. Well, we have one last video on the right to education, the financing of university education. Abroad, there are loans, specific student loans. This is not so common in Italy. Let's have a look at this video by Annalisa Pomponio. The costs for a university degree is often one of the obstacles that students have to deal with. There are student loans that Intesa San Paolo offers, for example. Our loan is a tool for the bank to support students. According to the Constitution, all students, all Italian young people need to reach the highest possible education level, but there are not enough funds for it. So this loan aims at allowing all students who attend university to have the right financing. The interest rate is very limited, it's very low, and you can return the investment, the loan, in 30 years. And this is limited to the student itself. There's also another product that is provided by Talent Venture, a specialized company in guiding young people. In this case, the loan will have to be returned in installments after signing a labor agreement, a contract, with more than 10,000 euros in terms of income. We're talking about 3,000 to 4,000 euros to get ready and acquire the skills that are still missing: cybersecurity, data analysis, and so on. For students who are interested, they will have to reimburse 7 to 8% of their future income. Another important point is lodging for students who don't live where the university is located. And Campus is the first provider of housing for university students in Italy. 9,000 beds in 13 Italian cities. So inside these buildings, Campus introduced in Europe, not just Italy, new idea of hospitality. So it also includes the need for relationships, the need for education. So there's always an adult nearby to support you. So first of all, we offer a one-to-one relationship with the guest, someone who looks you in the eye. So you're not just one bed that we rent. And according to the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, there will be 1 billion spent on university lodging. And that is a very good initiative that the government has taken. There are two problems related to it. The first one is goals, very challenging goals. The building of 70,000 beds, let's say. And the second is management. So the problem is not building these lodgings, it's managing them later. Cupertino, what are you doing about that in Bari? Can you give some answers to students? Well, one problem that emerged is startups, for example. Having research centers that become innovation incubators. Things are changing very rapidly, so the ability to use data is very important. All humanities studies can be renewed thanks to data analysis. So the integration of skills is very important. Digital skills, and try to create a startup, for example. This is something that new students will have to deal with. We would like to conclude this event with a very quick comment as regards the selection of the people working in your companies, because the investment that the family makes to allow a young one to study is very significant. So do you focus on a specific university, or is it more important to have a master or other courses?
Well, I'd say that at the moment we are following a very wide policy, so to speak. The problem is we do not have enough people, students. 50% of the jobs in the next 3-4 years do not exist yet. So, well, it's a combination of very difficult situations that we're facing at the moment. We do not look at, so to speak, the university in a very specific way. We look at students who have a training that can be also a technical training, or a training from a high school that maybe included the opportunity to have some kind of experience in terms of technologies. But we look at all universities and all faculties. And we are trying to see whether there is the opportunity to create some cooperations with the people from universities abroad. So there has to be a very strong motivation, a vision of what can happen in the next few years. And then, well, when these young people need to be hungry for knowledge. Mrs. Scordamaglia, yes, we do not have enough students, young people. We talk about 100,000 students less every year, 1.4 million less in the next few years. 190,000 dropouts every year create some kind of social bomb that creates tensions, and we will have to face this. We need to understand why students drop out, because maybe they are afraid of what they can have in the future. We in the agricultural and food sector, we have a horizontal kind of needs. We need technicians, experts, and well, we need to assess the skills, the soft skills also of these young people, as well as the basic soft skills that cannot be renounced at the moment. My son has decided to study abroad, and the second son has decided to stay in Italy. Let's see who will turn out to be right. So, Madam Minister, in 1 month we have the elections. Maybe you will be minister again, but this is not my question. If you're not going to be a minister again, is there a project that you really be sorry to see abandoned? Yes, it is the project that concerns research. Research needs to continue being at the center of our efforts. Thank you, and we'll be here again tomorrow night, and we will talk about digitalization. Mr. Ibarra, you need to spend the night in Rimini because you'll have to be here tomorrow. There will be an interview with Minister Colau, and then we will see how digitalization changes the services industry and agriculture. Thank you and good night.
civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.